when it comes to enterprise success, grasping the situation as it is very important. Too often companies, particularly technology companies, have to cope with major change to stay in business. Change is difficult. At the same time, if you keep going down the same road for too long, what can happen is products can become obsolete and you can go out of business. Not good. Recently, there was a Gartner survey that found that 53% of companies are concerned about growth, yet only 8% are concerned about innovation. The strange thing is that for many of these companies, it is innovation that drives growth. How many of you think that perhaps more attention should be given to innovation? Raise your hands. Okay, good. Then I think you're going to appreciate that and agree with me that what we need to do is look at how can we make the most of innovation for an organization. The answer is to use systems thinking. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give you just a kind of a brief overview of some of the main concepts of systems thinking. I'm going to talk about my framework and model for enterprise success using systems thinking. And I'm going to give you some actual examples that will illustrate it in action. Systems thinking, the concepts of systems thinking can help a company to be able to continue for the long run. What's important is how this can be applied. What I'm going to talk about today is a little bit different from most of the previous views of systems thinking, because what I do is I include reductionist thinking in the mix there. It's included with systems thinking. That's where I think we are, and I think that will make it make sense now. Okay, so let's get started on this. Using systems thinking, is this going to result in success? Well, how many of you think so? Okay, well, a few. Okay, then you're going to really appreciate what I'm saying. For the rest of you, all right, now my goal is just to get you to start thinking that maybe systems thinking does have some promise. Probably your next thought then is, what is systems thinking? Systems thinking is all about the big picture. When you take advantage of systems thinking, you step back and look at everything with fresh eyes. You're looking at everything from a geographical perspective. You're looking at all your financial matters, looking at all the different functional areas of a business. You're concerned about your competitors and your technology. You're looking at everything. Systems thinking is the opposite of reductionist thinking. What's reductionist thinking? Well, that's when you've got kind of a predetermined process. It's pretty predetermined. You've already figured it out, kind of like an assembly line. On the other hand, systems thinking is more like you might be facing a situation with your cybersecurity. And you have to decide, well, what am I going to do with these different types of data? Maybe systems thinking is more relevant. Why? Because whatever you decide could affect the entire system. Now, another way to think of this is if you're thinking of reductionist thinking, it's about analogy might be coming up with some of these new composite materials. Some of these are possible now, combining different elements and processes. There's new advanced technology that makes it possible. The synthesis. We're concerned in systems thinking with wholes rather than parts. For instance, if you think about the iPad, it came from systems thinking and it can be used for systems thinking. Another way to think of wholes and parts is we'll think about the food system. There's a lot of different elements of the food system, the distribution, the marketing, all these different elements. There's more to it though. If you look over here, it also has to do with the relationships of the different parts. Another big concept in systems thinking is about feedback loops. And over here you see kind of a generic model, and then over here is a nuclear reactor. In both of these cases, what happens is there's a one section that, one section affects another section, and so on until the original section is affected again. There's a loop going on there. Another big concern in systems thinking is the flow. You're concerned about how these different pieces affect each other. And it's a dynamic situation. When you think of systems thinking, you need to consider a lot of different interactions with people, and also those people, their interaction with different systems, and even multinational, multidisciplinary interconnections, all kinds of connections. One big concept to think about in systems thinking is integration. The opposite of integration is autonomy. And I think if you think of an autonomous team, you're thinking about people that there's kind of a boundary there. They work pretty much just with each other. But then over here, what's happened is that there's more of a fluid boundary, because the idea here is we're going to connect with other groups and other people, other systems. That's what you want in integration, and the idea here is that if you're integrated, you could lose money in that situation. There's some risk involved there. Now, another thing I want to point out about integration is you're using, it's a conscientious process. In other words, these links are not just random. You're thinking, what do I need to do? You need to also think about the whole system. The system as a whole matters, because as I said a little too early in what I planned, there's risk involved. When you think about this whole system, you're taking a risk. Now let's just switch gears a little bit, and let me ask you this. How do companies bring in revenue? How do they generate money?
Sales.
Yeah, that's right, sales. And the thing is, it turns out these tech companies in particular make most of their money during stable periods. Let's look at this. Intel, Microsoft, and Apple all made lots of money with these products. Now, let's look at the 386 chip, for instance. From 85 to 2007, they were not doing innovation on this chip the whole time, major innovation, but they were selling it, they were making money. How long should the stable period be, do you think? Well, that's not a very good question. A better question is, what will happen to a technology-based company if they persist too long with the same technology? Who can tell me what will happen?
Will be outdated.
The products can become obsolete.
You can go out of business.
They can go out of business, exactly. That can happen. You don't want to think about that, but I mean, it can happen. I'm really working today or I had been really thinking about this, and I wanted to get this overall framework for business success. I was inspired by an article that was written in the Harvard Business Review by Gary Pisano. He identified the business model and the technology model, and he came up with this quadrant. Okay, now, if you're up here in this top quadrant, then that means you need a new technology model and you need a new business model. Now, a couple of examples here is the Kodak and Polaroid. They needed to switch their technology from film-based products to digital products. And it turned out they did not make that shift fast enough to be able to do business a new way. And the thing is that in that situation, you need new capabilities in both the business, and that's really hard to do. A less extreme example is what happened up here, think about Blockbuster. They didn't need to invent video on demand, they just needed to apply that. Well, they didn't do it, but then upstart Netflix came in and just had astonishing success. So there is something to this idea of having a business model that works. And I gave this some thought, and I said, well, I was thinking, well, what happens if you apply systems thinking to the business model and the technology model? Then what? How do you incorporate both? So I came up with this. If you have the top executives and the technology leaders get together and they pick some kind of technology, and then there's a lot going on in the background though. Now I want to point out that both the business model and the technology model have elements of systems thinking and reductionist thinking. I'm going to go into this more later, but for the technology model, there's an action profile that I'm going to talk about that works. Okay, now in terms of the business model, I think companies need to raise the question, well, do we need to change it or not? Can we just keep using the same one? All right, now, of course, the goal of all this is to end up with a commercial product. Now, the most important thing to note here is that it's the technology model that drives the business model. Of course, this is in a technology-based company. All right, now let me just ask you this question. Who do you think needs to be concerned about systems thinking in a company? Who wants to say?
All of us.
Yes, yes, that's it. Everybody needs to think about it, as it turns out. And I'm going to help you see and understand this better, and particularly more about how this can apply. All right, now you may have to go through some kind of an unfreezing process. I'm showing here. And you need to change the relationships of people as well as their environment. You may need to reconfigure things. There was a gentleman named Kurt Lewin that came up with this freezing, unfreezing, and refreezing process for business models, and he had this idea. I thought it was a good one, and when I say reconfiguring, I don't mean just building more buildings according to the old model. It's more about really shaking things up. In other words, if a certain technological opportunity comes along, to take advantage of it, your old marketing and sales department might not work. You might have to get a whole different one. You might need a whole new product development department. At the same time, you might be able to use some of the old and some of the new for some of these other functions. And you also might be able to just leave a lot of the way your company is in the reductionist mode and just leave it alone. If it's working, keep going with it. All right, so we're moving on. We're going to talk about an actual example to help you really see what I'm talking about. Who's excited about this? Woohoo! Okay. All right. All right. We're going to talk about the difference in Nortel and Cisco. And Nortel had really used kind of a reductionist model. Now this is kind of strange when you think about it, because they ended up selling a lot of fiber optic cable because these companies were switching from copper to fiber optics, which is a really advanced technology, yet their business model was actually pretty archaic. And Cisco, on the other hand, they were just doing all kinds of things. They would change everything. I mean, they were not attached to anything necessarily. So here's what they look like if you compare the overall enterprise system model of these two companies. Again, there's elements of systems thinking and reductionist thinking that you see here. Now let me just talk a little bit about Mattel, because I just thought this was so interesting. The CEOs at the time, this is in the 90s, but particularly focusing on 96 more than anything, but all the 90s. The CEOs at the time had a stated rhetoric that in spite of that, they really were not all that state of the art. And now this was true for both Gene Monty and John Roth. And both of these gentlemen were really grounded in operational capability, not so much corporate strategy. And they just, this whole situation happened with networks, where they were proponents of the network being at the center, and there was a shift that happened. The shift went from ASM to IP, Internet Protocol, and they really were not accounting for how dramatic internet wireless and mobility were to the whole situation. In fact, when this shift was happening, they did not even have a router product. That's crazy, but it's true. And so this is the thing, what they were saying really was that we've got this business model here. Now, innovate within that. Okay, now on the other hand, Cisco really, they drove their company forward through their technology. But here's the thing, they're not attached to any particular technology. They're obsessed with it. They were adopting and acquiring and adopting new technologies, specific new technologies that were to drive their forward advancement of technology in general. And so there's a very distinct difference here between being driven by the business model or being driven by the technology. Okay, now the next thing I want us to do is just look at this this technology model. I don't panic, I know this looks pretty detailed, but it's really not that bad. I've tried to really distill this down to just a few points so that we can get something out of this. I'm going to talk about 3 key factors: systems worldview, interaction activities, and independence. That is, was the focus on autonomy or integration. Okay, now I'm looking at there's systems thinking and reductionist thinking involved here, and we're looking at the entrepreneurial team as well as corporate management, and we're looking at from the beginning stage to the middle stage of innovation effort. Okay, now there's 2 points I want to make about this. Okay, the first one is that what works best is for the small entrepreneurial team to work in isolation, autonomy as a small team. And the second thing is that in order to have innovation happen, there has to be integration with corporate management. And that means risk. That means if the technology fails, the company's going to lose money. This is what I'm saying is the ideal action profile for a technology development company. Okay. The next question is, well, does this work? Or does this make any sense? Well, these 2 companies were just fascinating to me because both companies had launched these dramatic decentralization efforts. They started to streamline their focus and speed up their time to market. One succeeded, the other failed. Why? Does systems thinking offer us any explanation here? Well, let's see. All right, now what you're seeing here is the results, and the reason I'm going to this right to very point is to have you, what I want you to notice is that what's circled is the ideal, and the question is, does this company's profile match or does it not match? Okay, now we're going to start going through these 3 factors these 3 key factors that I'm going to review here. And now, so we're going to talk about the 2 companies, there's Nortel and Cisco. Okay, now, okay, so we have these entrepreneurial, Nortel had 1 go that are just excellent. I mean, they really tried to connect with corporate, but they were shut down. Okay, now, so in terms of their systems worldview, it's an agreement. All right, now what was happening with Nortel in terms of systems worldview on the corporate level? Well, that starting in let me think. Well, in 1996, Nortel had this major reorganization, and they divided the company up into 4 different lines of business. They took their 13,000 product development people and they distributed them amongst these different lines of business, and so they were absorbed that way. Then the thing is that these managers just had these people that were technology oriented to make their existing products better. I mean, they focused on current products, profits. That's what they were supposed to do. That was what they were all about. This had the effect of just alienating the corporate management from their technology arm of the business. This is why this is not in alignment. All right, so let's look at what was Cisco doing in terms of their systems worldview. What were their entrepreneurs doing? Well, here's the thing about Cisco. They, in order to get new technology, they just bought up these companies. A lot of them were small, some of them were bigger. They had all these entrepreneurs that joined their company, and they turned them into vice presidents that reported directly to the CEO. Now, this was brilliant, because this meant that they had really great coordination. They had a really great system of worldview. So that's why I gave them a score that is aligned with my ideal. Okay, and well, that was talking about the entrepreneurial team, actually. Now, what about Cisco corporate? At the corporate level, Cisco had kind of this attitude of technical agnosticism. In other words, they were not really attached to any particular technology necessarily. The CEO at the time, John Chambers, said that he didn't want people fighting these religious technology wars. He wanted the culture to be about changing so that they could stay on the cutting edge of technology, whatever technology that was about. And Cisco, think about this, they had about 8,000 employees. Nortel ended up with 95,000, so maybe at this point, Nortel had 40,000. So anyway, Nortel had way more people, way more resources, yet it was Cisco that was really driving this technology push forward. Cisco, what happened was, in 1996, before 1996, 80% of Cisco's products were routers. And John Chambers says, no, we're going to change that. We're going to branch out from routers. He was really grounded in operational capability. He had also worked in sales management, though, for a number of different companies. So he was very customer savvy. He wanted to offer their customers a lot of networking options, so that when they wanted to upgrade, they would choose Cisco. This meant they had to be really on the cutting edge of the technology, and that's why for Cisco, I gave them they are in alignment because of the system's worldview. All right, now let's move on to. All right, now what were the entrepreneurial teams at Cisco doing in terms of their interaction activity? I said they divided it up into 4 different lines of business. Okay, now they were connected with corporate through that. And what happened was that this meant that they made these connections too early, which is not good and didn't work. And that's why they are not in alignment with my ideal. Okay, now what was happening with Nortel at the corporate management level? Well, in 1993, this trend of reducing the power of R&D started. And there's 3 different sets of events that really diminished it. But the point here is, well, what difference did that make? Well, the point is this meant that they were going to be missing some important innovation opportunities. For instance, would you believe that Nortel actually had something called the Orbiter cell phone? This was created by a little portion of their original R&D department that they kept that wasn't dispersed into these other 4 groups. Anyway, what they did is they took this prototype. They showed it at the GSM World Congress in Cairns in 1998. And the technical media said, this is a fantastic, state-of-the-art potential new product. I mean, this is really amazing. I mean, this is, think about it, 1998. Apple did not come out with iPhone until 2007, way before then. But this piece of equipment had a touch-sensitive screen, a pull-down keyboard. It had a directory, a notepad, and quick notes. I mean, it was a really good potential product. Well, guess what? Their CEO at the time, John Roth, did with this. He canned it. They didn't do anything with it. This is why, in terms of interaction skills, or interaction activities, this doesn't match here. There's no match with the ideal. I've already said they have a lot of entrepreneurial teams that they acquired that worked in isolation, so they just, by definition, they matched up on that. Now what about what was happening? Cisco was always on the alert for possible new companies to acquire. Well, and as they got further down the road, they had this meticulous screening process they went through. That's why that's on. They would find companies, they wanted the people to be in agreement with their vision, they wanted to be culturally compatible, they wanted it to be a win-win financially where it would work out. And they really wanted to bring these companies in where the people that worked there would really like and enjoy working at Cisco. And if they thought they wouldn't, they just would hand the deal before they got going. Okay. All right, so we've got one more. This is independence. This is the focus on autonomy or integration. What was happening with Intel's entrepreneurial teams in that regard? That when they did all this decentralizing that I talked about, even the innovators that had been working with each other were now disconnected. So that's not good. That's why that doesn't match. Well, at corporate, they didn't want to even hear about any revolutionary new ideas. Furthermore, this CEO at the time, he decided to go on this spending spree. And he bought all these facilities, lots and lots of facilities. He recruited lots of new technical people. And then in 1998, he really got wild, and they spent actually $20 billion buying up technology companies. Well, and so then guess what happened? Well, in terms of integration, well, a lot of, or most of the technology leaders at Nortel had, by this point in time, already left the company. So there wasn't anyone there to integrate either the people or the technology into Nortel. That's why I've got here there's not an alignment going on there. Because of this change in the structure, these technologists at these different lines of business, they were not accountable for any kind of technology strategy, and no one was taking a look at how effective any of these were. I mean, that just was not happening. In fact, their senior executive, technology executive at the time, John Tyson, said Nortel was brain dead. And I would have to agree, again, that's why that doesn't match. Entrepreneurial teams, they had their compensation linked to not manufacturing, they didn't have manufacturing. Some people even refer to it as a virtual company. The point is that they could have any kind of product technology they wanted. They were not tied to any particular technology. They gave them a lot of flexibility. And they brought these new people in, these new companies with technology, and they did, you know, what they would say to them, they did not say, okay, well, just go ahead and do your own thing. No. They said to them, we'll change everything. They said, what we're going to do is we are telling you what our plans are, and we're going to start, the idea is that we're going to build trust with them, and they would even take these entire engineering teams and physically move them next to the executives, corporate executives of Cisco, so that they can start to build rapport. That's how serious they were about really getting this integration to happen. Now, one other point I wanted to make is that when they brought these new companies in, they offered them stock options. They wouldn't vest for 4 years. Cisco reasoned, well, they'll at least stick around until then. But the idea was, well, that they wanted to keep the engineers and keep them innovating. And so that's why there's story here, in one way, is aligned with my ideal. Overall, when you look at the performance in terms of the technology model, Cisco lines up with my ideal profile, whereas Nortel is not. Then when you look at the overall, where you include the business model in there too, again, Cisco outperforms them. Okay, today I've talked about just like a brief overview of some of the concepts of systems thinking. I talked about my model for enterprise success using systems thinking, and I gave you some actual examples, Cisco and Nortel in the 90s, that show you how this works. And it's important to think about what's behind what's going on so that you really understand the situation. I think that part is pretty clear. This is not a framework that you can blindly apply. At the same time, though, it does help you be able to take a look at the big picture. And the idea here is it'll be helpful to have enterprise success for the long run. Now I'm closing with the words of Carl Sagan again. It's better to grasp the universe as it is than to persist in delusion. And remember, making the right connections is what makes innovation a reality.